If you're here, you've probably also fallen victim to seeing a gorgeous, beautiful, big, stunning plant online, whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, wherever, and thinking, I want one of them. And then you get it, and then maybe it just doesn't turn out as well as we thought it would. I know I'm guilty of that, and so I kind of wanted to do a video today where I talk about some plants that I was influenced to get and whether or not I found them worth it. Some of the plants in this video, I think absolutely yes, and some I'd say maybe not. It kind of depends on your circumstances. So that's what's happening today. Before we get into it, Cosmo. He's just being a menace. Before we get into it, I want to say if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet. So if you want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel. If you are not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you returning. Now let's get into this. The first plant, the one that kind of inspired this video, is one that I'm still unsure of. But we're giving it a go. I know I'm like milking my ilsemanii for all it's worth, but like, I have an ilsemanii, which like 2020 Emma would have like never believed because they were thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And yes, they are still quite expensive. They are not cheap by any means, but they are on the lower end of cost for like relative to themselves at the minute. And I was able to grab my hands on this one. Basically, the ilsemanii, I was influenced by planting Ashley in our influencing plants video. I'm not surprised. She was very, very convincing there. And I think it's an absolutely gorgeous plant, but because this is fairly new to me, I'm still not 100% sure whether or not it is worth it yet. I'm a little bit nervous about it because I have heard that it is quite high maintenance compared to some other philodendrons. And in general, I tend to prefer plants that are a little bit more low maintenance. But this one is in something called dirty sphagnum. Basically, it's sphagnum with some additives instead of soil. And I feel like it's gonna stay quite moist in here, I hope. Basically, I'm a little bit nervous about whether or not it will be worth the hype because it is like I've heard it's a little bit difficult, but I've also heard it can be really easy. So it's one of those things that I feel like I have to try for myself, and I'm just really excited about it. And so hopefully in a few months' time I'll be able to give you a more definitive answer on whether or not I think the ilsemanii is worth all the hype. But as of right now, I mean, I think it's absolutely stunning and really, really beautiful, and I'm very glad that I have added it to my collection. I'm scared still. This next one I was influenced to get because of Claire, the Jungle Haven. I saw her variegated Musa Florida and I was like, I need one of those now. And so I kept an eye on the website where she got it from and was like waiting and waiting and waiting. I waited for a couple months because I didn't want it to ship during winter, but I am so glad that I got myself one of these. I have found so far that it is fairly easy care and it has sized up quite a decent amount in the time I've had it. Mine is not looking the greatest by any means at this point in time, but I think that is because it is still quite little. And when they are little like this, it's hard to like get a good read on these leaves. Once it gets a little bit bigger, which I know Claire's has gotten quite a lot bigger lately, once it gets a bit bigger, I feel like it'll like look like it's filled out a little bit more. I know it looks a little bit pathetic at the minute, but I really love this sort of variegation on it. The like really blocky, chunky variegation. I find it looks really beautiful. I've had this one in my Millsbo cabinet, so it is getting a slightly elevated environment as opposed to just being in sort of normal room conditions. So it's getting bright light and humidity and warmth all of the time. But I feel like it could probably tolerate like not being in those conditions as well. I feel like banana plants in general tend to be pretty hardy. The main thing is that they're quite thirsty, which I mean, I should probably water this one because I know that they are thirsty. So maybe I need to be a little bit more on top of watering it, but that can totally be done, and it's just a matter of making sure it stays nice and hydrated. But I've not had any issues with the leaves, like the white bits on the leaves going brown. I know that can happen to some, especially if they're not in high enough humidity. This leaf is on its way out. You can see it's going a bit yellow there. It's the oldest one on the plant, so I'm not surprised. But like the white parts, so far I've not had any issues with them going brown at all, which is really, really nice. And I just think it is a really cool, beautiful one, and I would say it's definitely worth it so far in my collection. Next up, we have the anthurium warocqueanum, which I'm a little bit in two minds about because I love this plant. I think it is absolutely stunning when it grows well. Like, you see these gorgeous specimens on Instagram, and you can see some that are like absolutely freaking massive, like insanely big. And I'm like, I want that. But I have found it a little bit more difficult than the internet may make it seem. And I know, yes, it is an anthurium, so it's gonna want high humidity and not like insane amounts of light, but like decent enough light and blah, blah, blah. So maybe it's just that I don't have the right conditions for it. But I think at the very least in the UK, unless you're growing this in a like greenhouse grow tent sort of thing, you're probably not going to get it to grow as amazing as some of the specimens you are seeing online. Like, almost all of my leaves have come out with some forms of rips in them, and I think that is to do with humidity and it not being high enough just out in my home. This is a fairly large plant, and so I can't necessarily fit it in my greenhouse cabinet. That might be better conditions for it because it stays a bit more humid, but because it gets so like leggy and big, I can't really just fit this in there. And so it's one that has to live out in my home, and I don't think that's the environment that is right for it. And so yes, it is a me problem, but I like, if I can't do it, and I'm fairly decent at houseplants, then I feel like the average plant parent probably won't be able to give them the conditions they need to grow those sort of big, beautiful leaves that like you kind of want the warocqueanum for. It's just such a shame because I really like the shape of these leaves. I find a lot of anthuriums look quite similar, and this one, the shape of the leaf differentiates it quite a lot, and so that's why I like it so much. And for a while mine was growing really well, but it's just gone all kinds of crispy. I mean, that is actually a burn from a grow light, but like down here, that's not burn from grow light, that's just lack of humidity. So if I didn't like the vibe so much, I probably wouldn't have one. And if this one were to die off completely, I don't know if I would replace it. I would want to because I obviously really like the plant, but I don't know if I should because it's just, I don't think I can give it the home that it so desperately deserves. The next plant on this list is my variegated Thanksgiving cactus. Look at this beauty. So I was influenced to get one of these because I saw Wild Fern get one, and I was like, that is something I need within my life. But I really love jungle cacti, and I really like variegated plants, and so this seemed like the perfect combination of them. And they're still quite difficult to find. I've not really seen any be sold as actual plants. This is one that I got actually given to me at a swap by one of you guys, which I really, really appreciate. But I've never seen a variegated Thanksgiving cactus, Christmas cactus be sold, like as a plant, which is crazy. I feel like you can buy a cutting here or there, maybe, and if you do, it's probably gonna be a bit expensive, but I wish they would actually just sell them as normal plants because they are so stunning. And I've personally found that this one isn't too difficult. Growing any sort of plant from a cutting can be a little bit more difficult than getting an established plant. That's why I wish they sold them as established plants. But like, aside from those sort of like growing pains at the very beginning, I found that this one is a very easy, tolerant houseplant. Once I've got it to root and actually start producing growth, it has grown extremely well for me, and it has been one that I never really have to worry about, which again is fantastic. I don't want to have to worry about my plants if I can at all help it, This one has gone kind of one of two ways. Mine has gone kind of full reversion or full white. So it's a bit odd. I only have a couple that are on the more dappled side. If I could grow more dappled, that'd be great. And maybe it just means that I need to chop and prop those cuttings and try and like, oh my gosh, whoa, this one's actually just split down the middle. So it divides itself and one side is like full green and one side is full white. That's crazy. But maybe I just need to chop and propagate it more to try and get more of the sort of mixed variegation. But otherwise, I don't find this any more difficult than your average jungle cactus. And in general, jungle cacti tend to be quite easy, especially in my home where it is fairly humid and fairly bright and warm. They are epiphytic and tropical plants, and so they're gonna want a more humid environment. But I don't think I'd have any trouble growing this out in sort of normal home conditions if I wanted to. Right now, because it's still like a very young one in my collection, I am keeping it in my Millsbo cabinet just to keep it safe while it has been propagating. But I think in a few more months' time, I could probably take this out and put it just anywhere about my home and it would be perfectly happy like that. I like as well that the full white bits don't seem to have any issues growing. I know in lots of plants that have white variegation, the like white chunks can go brown, but I haven't really found that happen with this one. They do just keep growing more white bits, which I think is quite fun. Fun and different and a bit weird, and I like it. So I definitely think the variegated Thanksgiving cactus, Christmas cactus, if you can get your hands on one, absolutely do it. Next up, we have the Monstera dubia mature form. So not necessarily the one that grows shingling on a plank, because I could kind of take that or leave that. It's gorgeous, but I don't know if it's for me. But the mature one, I was so influenced to get this after seeing Claire's. Hers was big and beautiful, and I just like loved the vibe. I love these sort of amazing fenestrated leaves. And this one has grown very well for me. As you can see, I have got some pretty amazing, outstanding leaves on it. But one, it grows so fast. So fast, which is great. It's a great problem to have, but unfortunately that means that you need to upsize the pole quite frequently. And I find this one really hates change. It hates to be chop and extended. Anytime I do anything even like slightly like different to it, the next leaf it puts out decides to just die off completely. So I do have points in here where it is just missing leaves in the middle, and up at the top here, the new leaves are not looking their best. You can see they are not happy, and they've even sized down quite a bit at the minute. And I think that is due to me chopping and extending it, which is something that you kind of need to do if you want to grow a nice, big, beautiful one. And maybe the answer is I should have just given it a massive pull from the start, and so I don't need to keep chopping and extending it. But I don't really have the space in my home for a bunch of gigantic moss poles, and so it's not really been a possibility for me. Maybe that's something I do next time I put an extension on it, but it's just a shame because it is such a good grower. And so if you can give it the space to grow quickly, it will absolutely do it. And so I think it could be an absolute yes, but they can also be so finicky, and so if you don't have the space for it to get absolutely massive, then maybe it isn't for you. I'm not gonna give up on it, and I'm hoping that I can get it to go back to growing these big, beautiful leaves, because like the difference there is absolutely appalling. Like these leaves look so bad up the top. So maybe I just need to chop it. That's actually a good shout. Maybe I should just lop the top off, behead it, and fill this with moss and give it like a big pole. And so while it's growing in a new growth point, it can, yeah, maybe that's the option for me. Like I said, it's all doable. It's totally doable, but you kind of have to be very on top of it, which I don't know if everybody wants to be as on top of things. Up next, we have the variegated alocasia frydek. I feel like this was the first variegated alocasia that really like grew in popularity and sort of sparked the like trend of variegated alocasias being popular. This was the first one I was seeing well before I was seeing a variegated dragon scale or mellow or anything like that. And this one was so popular and also so freaking expensive. I was really struggling to get my hands on one at the beginning for a decent price. I don't know if I'm cheap or just frugal, and I don't want to spend tons and tons of money on plants where I possibly can. So instead of buying a big mature plant and spending lots of money, I opted to get a couple baby plants and grow things from corms, and that did not work for me. I could not get my variegated frydek to grow for the life of me from a baby plant. I think I tried like 3 or 4 and all of them died on me or would only put out full white leaves, which like weren't viable, and it just was not a good situation. And the only reason I have one now is that I've had some friends, patrons, some of you guys actually give me some more slightly maturer plants. They're still little, they were like adolescents, but they had grown out of the like baby plant phase and were that little bit more mature that allowed them to stick more in my collection, and that is why I've been able to get this one and grow it to the size I have it now, which is pretty large, I'd say. It is a pretty big plant, and I do have several plants in this pot. Unfortunately, mine is not the best looking or like the best shaped plant in the world. I find in general that the Mitchellsiana frydeks, they tend to grow quite leggy for me, and I don't know if that's just because I don't have enough light above them or something, even though this is underneath my Soltec light, so I would think that it would, because all of my other allocations under that have been fine under those conditions, but I find mine tend to grow really, really wide and spread apart. My Mitchellsiana does the exact same thing, and so if you want an alocasia that doesn't do that, that's a bit more compact, maybe this one isn't for you, but I'd say if you were to get one, it might be worth getting a slightly more mature plant. And that's a lot easier to do now that they have dropped in price quite a bit, since they have, like, they've gone through this like phase of being expensive and popular, and now they're just popular and a little bit more accessible. And so now you can get a bigger plant for not as much money, which is great. And I would definitely recommend that if you are to get one, get yourself a big plant off the bat, because it'll grow so much better for you, and then you don't have to go through all those growing pains of getting a baby plant. So I'd say this one's a maybe worth it. It really depends on your situation, but I'm almost veering towards not worth it. That sounds bad. I do really love this plant, but I'd almost say it's not. It definitely wasn't worth the price like last year or the year before, but maybe now. Maybe now. Maybe. Next up, we have the monstera burle Marx flame, and most of you actually probably don't know that I have this plant because I've not shown it on here. I did an unboxing for it over on my Patreon, and that was fitting because my patrons were actually the ones that influenced me to get this plant, because I was seeing it online, and yes, it is cool and beautiful, and like they're fun shaped leaves, but like, I feel like it's not that far from the sort of classic Monstera deliciosa in terms of form. And I was thinking like maybe I wouldn't fall into that rabbit hole, because I've had normal Monstera deliciosa. I mean, that's a Thai con, but like it gives me the same sort of vibes with the fenestrations, like enough to like satisfy that sort of craving in me. But my patrons convinced me that if I ever see a burle Marx flame in real life, I should feel the leaves, because the leaves are so much thicker than the average Monstera leaf. And it's really hard to show you because you can't tell from like online at all that the leaves are so thick, but they basically convinced me to feel it and then make a decision. And so I think I saw one at a friend's house or something like that, and I felt the leaves and I was like, okay, yeah, this is different and this is cool. And so I got myself one, and I'm not 100% sure yet whether or not it is fully worth it. So maybe this one doesn't belong in this video, but like, I think so far, if you were thinking along the same lines that I was, that like it's just a little bit too much like a normal monstera deliciosa, no, it's different. Like, obviously it's different, but like the leaf shape, and I really like the way the fenestrations come into this one. I like how they're like long and skinny and look like teardrops, and then they get that like little one fenestration in. It's not like the deliciosa where they're quite round. I feel like the form of this one is different enough to justify it, which I definitely was not in that camp maybe 6 months ago. I would have said absolutely not. Why would I add that to my collection? But I am really glad that I have jumped on the Burle Marx Flame bandwagon, and of course mine is still a baby, but so far I think it will be worth it, and it's grown really well for me so far. It's not like had any sort of issues or anything like that, which I like. And I mean, like, look how chunky that root is. Absolutely stunning. So far, given it's quite new, so far, I'd say yes, worth it. And then lastly, the last plant, the Florida Ghost. And holy cow, I have tried so many Florida Ghosts. Again, this is one that I have tried from a lot of very baby plants, and that has not worked for me. And I have not been able to grow them well. I've not been able to grow them to keep the sort of ghostly whiteness in their leaves. And so I've struggled. It wasn't until I got a mature cutting, actually. So I think it was a top cut still, but it was a cutting. I think it was 1 or 2 leaves, and that really made a big difference for me in the Florida Ghost. But also, this one is quite finicky in that it needs really, really bright light in order to keep the sort of minty variegation going on in its leaves, the ghostliness that I personally like the plant for, and so it needs really high light for that, as well as it grows quite leggy. And I know this one doesn't look leggy, but this was one long vine before, and I chopped it all up and propped every single one of those cuttings, and so all of these nice little new leaves at the bottom, those are all new growth points coming out, which I feel like I like that. And I like when the plant looks bushy like this, and so that's why I've put so many cuttings on a single moss pole. But mine did not look like this from the start, and I don't know if it'll continue to look like this because I have fairly recently put it onto the pole like this. So it very well could not like this moss pole and decide to grow even leggier again in the future. So I almost want to say that it's not worth it. Like, if this pot doesn't work out for me the way I want it, I'm gonna get rid of this plant because I just don't think it is worth the amount of care and faff that you have to go through to get it to look nice. Like, you see these gorgeous ones online that are like super short internodal spaces and stuff. Nah, that's just not realistic. I don't know where those people are growing those plants, but it is not in a normal home environment, I swear to God. And if it is, how? Tell me how, because I don't know. So, I don't know. I really like the vibe of that. I really like the idea behind this plant. And if I can get it to grow well, then maybe yes. But I feel like the amount of struggle I've gone through to get it to this point has made it not really worth it, in my opinion. So maybe pass on this one. So there we go. Those are some plants that I have been influenced to buy, and whether or not I think that they are worth the hype. Definitely some ones in here that I would totally recommend other people get. And I mean, maybe you've had a different experience to me in that some of these have grown really well for you when they haven't for me. That's absolutely fine. Everybody has different things, but if you're anything like me, then maybe some of these aren't for you. Before I go though, I want to say a huge thank you to Orsolia for joining in over on my Patreon. I really hope you enjoy all the bonus content there and the live chats and access to the Discord server and all of that. If anyone else is interested in joining, my lowest tier is £3, and that's where you get the bulk of all of the fun things. So if you're interested, the link is down below in the description, but if you're not, that's totally okay as well. Otherwise, thank you so much for for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment on other houseplants you'd like me to talk about in the future. I'd love to know any plants that you were influenced to get that you have found either absolutely worth it or absolutely not worth it. Let me know down below in the comments and subscribe for more. I hope you're having a fantastic day and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to keep growing. Bye!